The Minnesota Vikings have announced their next head coach in Keven O'Connell. Now, if you've been tuning into the show recently, you'll notice that I love the hiring of Keven O'Connell. I am a huge fan of it. Now, yes, I understand why people were saying, oh, Jim Harbaugh should be the option. Jim Harbaugh should be the next head coach for the Vikings because he has shown himself as a very respectable guy around the league. However, you look at this hiring for the Minnesota Vikings, hiring Keven O'Connell is the best head coaching hiring in the last decade. And in 2 years, I'm telling you, you will likely realize this because he is a perfect fit for this situation. Keven O'Connell has now quickly, I want to mention here, they have announced Keven O'Connell as their next head coach. They haven't officially brought him in as their head coach because obviously he's going to be the offensive coordinator in the Super Bowl with the Rams. So until then, we can't really get anything done. We're kind of trapped in this situation where we're waiting to bring him in as our head coach because we don't want to make any big decisions like, oh, what are we going to do with this cap scenario? We don't want to make any of these big decisions until we actually bring him in and until it is actually official. But Keven O'Connell has coached 7 years in the NFL thus far, starting out with the Cleveland Browns in 2015, was their quarterback coach. In 2016 was a special projects operator with the 49ers. So you'll notice there with the 49ers worked with Kwesi in the past. So this is a good relationship they've already built. And I'm telling you, you need a good relationship. Not only is a good relationship, like I've mentioned, with a quarterback and head coach, but you want your GM and you want your quarterback or your head coach to all be on the same page because this, I'm telling you guys, this is how you build a dynasty. Okay, the Vikings, we aren't looking to be a go all in boomer bust team again next year. This is a completely different Vikings team. We are not a boomer bust team. We aren't a let's bring in all these veteran players and load up again and reload and completely go all in, restructure this person's contract, restructure this person's contract, and go all in next year. This is not the Vikings team that we're cheering for anymore. We're looking for young talent and we're looking to rebuild, which is why I want to mention real quick here because why did the Vikings not bring in Jim Harbaugh? It was looking very promising. I mean, you bring him in as what, like an 8-9 hour pretty much interview where you bring him into your place, you fly him in, show him your practice facility, show him all of the way everything goes down, but you don't even give him an offer. You let him walk without an offer. Why is that? Not because Jim Harbaugh wasn't a fit for the Vikings, because I don't believe Kwesi thought that his intentions for this Vikings team aligned with what we're going for here. Because here's the thing, Vikings fans. The biggest difference between Keven O'Connell and Jim Harbaugh is Keven O'Connell is young. He is 36 years old, has not been around the league as long as Harbaugh. Harbaugh has been around the league for a long time. Now, obviously with Michigan and college football before that, he was with the 49ers, brought them to the Super Bowl, played his own brother in the Super Bowl. I might be wrong, but I believe that was the same Super Bowl where like they lost electricity or something like that, and it was the longest Super Bowl in NFL history. Quick little fun fact for you right there. But the reason why we didn't bring in Jim Harbaugh was simply because if you look at it, does Jim Harbaugh want to go for a rebuild kind of with the Vikings? Now, I understand this isn't a complete rebuild. We're not getting rid of all of our talent. We can compete next year. But what we are looking for is the future for this team, loading up on young talent so that we're not just going to be a competitor next year, but for the next decade. That is what we're looking at here. And that's what I don't believe Harbaugh's plan was for this team. Now, you look at Keven O'Connell on the other hand. 36-year-old head coach, one of the youngest head coaches in NFL history. We went from a 65-year-old Mike Zimmer to a 36-year-old Keven O'Connell. What does that mean? Our team is going to look completely different in 2022. As last year, we were maybe the most passive or the most conservative offense, predictable offense in NFL history. I mean, that was a god-awful season for the Minnesota Vikings when you look at how much our coaching staff was holding us back. That goes to both Mike Zimmer and Clint Kubiak. Clint Kubiak is also no longer with the team. He's going to be the quarterback coach for the Denver Broncos. So just back-to-back great news for us Vikings fans. I love this decision of bringing O'Connell as our head coach, which is why I see a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of people around social media. A lot of Vikings fans are not happy with the decision, and I can see why you would want it to be Jim Harbaugh. I'm not saying he's a bad option. I get it. He's a great option. And I can see why you would want it to be your first choice. But I'm mentioning here that Keven O'Connell is the risk that this team needs because we know Harbaugh was going to work with this team. Keven O'Connell is a little bit more of a risky move. Risk is exactly what this organization needs. We can't make the same conservative signings that we've made over and over again. Young, offensive-minded head coaches. What is working for teams around the league right now? Young, offensive-minded head coaches. Sean McVay just brought his team to the Super Bowl. It is what working around the league. Kyle Shanahan brought his team to the 49ers after beating the Cowboys and after beating the Packers. This is what works, Vikings fans. This is what works, and it's so good to see that we're finally on the right page to success, and that is through Keven O'Connell. Now, yes, it's a risky move. We even know that with the Rams, he's not even the mastermind of the Rams offense. The Rams offense might be great. He might be the offensive coordinator. That's a Sean McVay-led offense. Sean McVay is the one calling the plays and gets most of the credit for designing the plays on top of that. So yes, we can't give Keven O'Connell much of the credit for the Rams team. However, what we do know is he's working under Sean McVay, who is a mastermind, meaning Keven O'Connell once again can build that relationship. Again, it was with Washington. Now the Washington Commanders was their quarterback coach in 2017. That was the quarterback coach when Kirk Cousins was their quarterback. Let's put that there because a head coach to quarterback relationship is very important, and it looks pretty promising like we already have that. His passing game coordinator in 2018, offensive coordinator for Washington in 2019, and then 2020 and 2021 Rams offensive coordinator. So already been with Kirk Cousins. He's already been with Kwesi. So already we have a good relationship in our locker room. We have a great relationship in the front office. This is exactly what we need. This is what the Vikings team has been missing because while obviously through the Mike Zimmer era, Mike Zimmer, before Kirk Cousins, we noticed how Zimmer's relationship with Teddy Bridgewater was excellent. It was outstanding. And that's really why Teddy Bridgewater is such a loved player in this team, is because he's just a lovable guy. He might not be the most talented quarterback, and by no means is even a top 10 or top 16 quarterback ever in his history, in his whole career. However, he continues to get starting role and continues to win the locker room wherever he is. He had a great relationship with Mike Zimmer, and that's why we were a solid team under Teddy Bridgewater, why he worked with us, despite his injuries, why he did work with us. And then you bring in Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins just never felt the same. The locker room just, there felt to be tension. Now, obviously, no one's going to go in the press conference and bash their teammates. I mean, it's not going to happen. But Stephon Diggs didn't seem happy. Mike Zimmer didn't seem happy. I mean, we just know that it wasn't working. It was not working. And we had a boom or bust year. We already went over our boom and bust year. This is not another boom or bust year. We just finished it. It was a bust. And now all the contracts that we restructured, Kirk Cousins contract, Adam Thielen contract, these contracts are hitting now. These contracts are coming in hot, which is why now what we have to look for is the future for this team. Keven O'Connell, Kwesi, two younger guys who are just now getting an opportunity to be a GM and a head coach. The future for the Minnesota Vikings team is here, and I'm all in for it. I love the decision. And that's why I've mentioned that Keven O'Connell was my first choice. Out of the four Vikings finalists, Keven O'Connell was my first choice because this is where the league is heading. Vikings fans, this is where the league is heading. It's no longer 80s football where you just run the ball, and then pass. It is no longer 80s football. This is now, today, what is working for teams. Young, offensive-minded head coaches who build a relationship with the quarterback, put the ball in his hands, and make all downs passing downs. All downs are passing downs. I don't care if it's first, second, third down. You can pass the ball. But again, the run game is open. You have Dalvin Cook. There's a lot of plays that Keven O'Connell will design and be able to call here. Now, this is a little bit of question because since the Vikings announced Keven O'Connell as their head coach, we're kind of in this situation where we can't do anything until after the Super Bowl. We have 2 weeks until the Super Bowl. So realistically, Keven O'Connell is not even our head coach yet because both parties can walk away from this deal. I mean, there's nothing's official yet. Vikings can walk out of this deal. Keven O'Connell can walk out of this deal. Nothing is official yet. And we're kind of trapped with what are we going to do until after the Super Bowl because Keven O'Connell cannot be our head coach. And it's not just the head coaching position that needs to be filled here because we need to bring in Keven O'Connell and he needs to bring in his coaching tree, basically. He needs to bring in who's going to be the quarterback's coach, who's going to be the defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, if we need one. I mean, he can take full control of the offense. I would like him to bring in an offensive coordinator who he's worked with in the past. He needs to build this coaching tree, and we're kind of just, we're basically trapped. We're in jail until after the Super Bowl as we can't make any moves without him. So it's, but it's good to know that we have a head coach now. It's good to know that he's going to be our head coach, and it's good to know that finally we can look to the next moves because like I've mentioned multiple times on the show, this next 2-3 months are going to be the most interesting 2 to 3 months in Vikings history because in all honesty, we have no clue what to expect. We really don't. Where's Kirk Cousins going to go? Maybe Adam Thielen's gone. Harrison Smith. I mean, there's multiple names over the age of 30 that jobs are just not locked down with this team anymore because we have a whole new coaching tree going on. Now, Kwesi brought in his head coach, and then now Keven OConnell, who is he going to bring in to work with? Who is going to work with him? We know it's not going to be Clint Kubiak. He's the quarterback's coach with the Denver Broncos right now. Now, let's hint at that. He's the quarterback's coach with the Denver Broncos. We know Kubiak had a good relationship with Kirk Cousins. Maybe we see a Kirk go to Denver. There's another relationship right there that's already established, and we could trade him away to there. Another thing, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. Is Andre Patterson going to stay with this team? Andre Patterson might be an amazing defensive mind and has been with this team organization for some time now. But typically what you see in these situations when you bring in a new GM, when you bring in a new head coach, nobody's job is locked down. Nobody is safe here. Absolutely nobody in this coaching staff is safe. Ryan Fiken, for all we know, could no longer be the special teams coordinator, even though he just had a great season like he did this last year where he turned the special teams around. Nobody's job is locked down right now because we don't know what Keven OConnell wants to do for this team. He could come in here and completely change the entire coaching staff, and that's more of it likely than not what happens.